What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here. I told y'all we had some Saturday recaps coming y'all's way, and I had to hop on. I think that, this game ended probably less than 30 minutes ago. We had one of the biggest upsets of the season. Oregon over Ohio State in Columbus without their best player, Kayvon Thibodeau, missing a five-star linebacker and Justin Flo, and the Ducks found a way to pull it out 35-28, as y'all see down there. That is the final score in Columbus, and the Ducks, number 12 ranked in the country, made a huge statement today, guys. I mean, a lot of people weren't giving them, much chance at all going into this game. And even people like me who had faith, in the preseason that Oregon could pull this off. Once Kayvon Thibodeau was announced out with injury, and Justin Flo was out, everyone just kind of jumped off the bandwagon. Outside of Eugene, I don't know many people who thought Oregon was going to pull the upset. You saw on game day, even Desmond Howard was like, "Man, I thought this was going to be close." Kayvon Thibodeau being out changes the whole dynamic. Ohio State in a blowout. That was his exact quote. Well, Oregon had other plans. And, I want to say we're going to start with takeaways. And I want to make this episode more about Oregon than Ohio State's, problems. But for one, Mario Cristobal better start getting some respect put on his name. He is recruiting like a madman. He is developing talent beautifully up in Eugene. And he has shown that he can take this Ducks team and go win a big game on the road when all the hype and all the media and everyone's up against them. They executed on such a high level all day. And the biggest thing is, before the game, we knew Ohio State was going to have big plays, that they are an explosive offense, and they were going to give Oregon a few punches. The number one thing I loved about what I saw today from the Ducks is that no matter how many times Ohio State busted a big play or got something explosive or, made a guy miss an open field and took it for a touchdown, Oregon stuck to their game plan. He said, "Listen, we understand we're going to be a run-first team. We're going to run the ball 40 times, and we're never going to get away from that, no matter what is going on the field." And they did that. They rushed the ball 38 times for 269 yards, and average for the game over 7 yards per carry. And I told y'all on my pregame preview, CJ Verdell was going to have to be special. I said that he was going to have to win this game. 20 carries, 161 yards, averaged over 8 yards per carry, and had 2 scores on the ground, and also took a pass for a touchdown and was the Ducks' leading receiver with 3 catches for 34 yards. CJ Verdell also has to get some respect put on his name. This is a guy who is the MVP of the 2019 Pac-12 championship game when the Ducks beat a top 5 team in Utah. And for me, this offensive line did their thing. I was confident that Oregon offensive line was going to have to make some sort of an impact, and they did. They won the line of scrimmage again, and that's where we'll get into what went wrong with Ohio State. That front seven, as good as they are in terms of rushing the passer, absolutely cannot handle a run game. I mean, they couldn't get any penetration. They missed tackles, poor gap protection. It is a whole problem. And I'm pulling up, just my notes from the preview. The matchup to watch for me was easy, and it was the Oregon defensive line versus the Ohio State O-line. And if you watch the last, I believe it was like 2 minutes, so Ohio State's last drive mostly, the defensive line closed the game. They were getting to C.J. Stroud. Even though he completed that pass, they should have had a sack at the goal line. They get a sack to end the game. They were rushing the passer, getting him out of the pocket, and they forced the last minute interception for I believe it was Verone McKinley who got that interception. The one big drive they got to Stroud consistently, you forced them into freshman mistakes. And that shows that this Oregon defense can step up in key moments without 2 of probably their top 5 best players on the defense. The Oregon defensive line deserves huge credit for coming in the clutch situation to force C.J. Stroud to make his first mistake. And C.J. Stroud played well, but you saw once you got to him and once you put him in that pressure moment and you started sacking him and getting him out of the pocket, he tried to force something. And that Oregon secondary, which everyone overlooks, made a play. Verone McKinley getting the game-winning interception. And also a big takeaway for me, Anthony Brown. Props. I apologize. Listen, I am a man on the I'm a man of my word on here. I apologize. I had zero faith in Anthony Brown this year. I thought by this game, Todd Thompson would probably be the starter. Anthony Brown played outstanding. I mean, 236 yards, zero turnovers, had two big touchdowns, and also ran for 65 yards, averaging over 6 yards per carry. I was talking to my friend on the phone during halftime. I was like, man, Brown just looks like a playmaker out there. When things break down in the pocket, he can make something happen outside of it, and or he can get on the ground with his legs and go make a play happen. And Oregon, I don't, right now as a freshman, I don't know if Thompson could do that. I agree. He's the future's so bright for Oregon, but right now, Anthony Brown solidified himself as the leader of that team. And also a big takeaway here is that Oregon secondary. I know they gave up a lot of passing yards, but can we put a little bit more respect on Oregon's defense, man, without their two best players holding Ohio State to 28 points? It was a bend, don't break approach, and I am fine with that. It wins games today. You're not with an Ohio State offense like this, you're never going to shut them down per se. But when you look at what they did, yes, they gave up 600 total yards, but that's all fine. I'd give up 600 yards and hold you under 30 points. They did what they had to, and the biggest thing for me is they forced a great turnover late in the game, and then also they held Ohio State to 6 for 15 on third downs. That is the key. While on the flip side, Oregon's offense was amazing and achieved over 50% on their third down opportunities, and Ohio State 2 for 5 on fourth down. Get the points where you can get them, man. I think they got a little bit too confident in their offense to make plays. Oregon made the stops when they need to. Yes, giving up over 600 yards is tough, but they made the play and made the stop when they needed to and got them the win. And when you look at what went wrong for Ohio State, I mentioned it. The running defense for Ohio State, the front seven is just abysmal, atrocious, whatever you want to put on it. Apparently, I liked A words there, but it is bad. It is terrible. I mean, zero gap integrity. They get pushed around on the front of the line, and also there's no edge protection. The Oregon made a living getting up off the edge. That defensive end keeps getting sucked in, he keeps getting reached on. And once you get reached as a defensive lineman and that offensive tackle has his hand there and you can't get outside of him, the running back's gone. And they did it time and time again. Until Ohio State can win the edge, teams are going to be able to run on you because they're going to keep getting outside, and then they're going to hit you up the middle, and it's going to be an explosive play. Haskell Garrett is so good, but he can't do it all alone. The other guys got to help him on the inside of that defensive line. They have a bunch of pass rushers on the defensive line, but they aren't great in the run game, and that's going to kill Ohio State time and time again because they gave up over 7 yards to carry to Oregon coming off a week where they let Mo Ibrahim absolutely torch them for almost that in the first half. That is going to be the Achilles heel of Ohio State. If you can run the ball, you're gonna be able to put some points up on Ohio State and shorten up the game, which is what Oregon did. The time of possession, shockingly, Ohio State still won, but Oregon made it where it was 30-30. Ohio State couldn't wear down their defense. They wore down Ohio State's defense toward the end, and I am so impressed with them. Now, on the offensive side for Ohio State, you put up 600 yards, but for me, you got away from the run game. I understand you rushed for 30 times, but you only averaged 4 yards a carry, 128. Henderson wasn't as explosive as he was last week. Mayan Williams didn't do as much as he did last week. And for me, you can't have CJ Stroud throw 55 times in a game like this. I understand you have the athletes on the outside, but if you give anybody who understands college football that stat and you're like, they're going up against one of their biggest tests and you're going to give this young kid 55 times to put it in the air, he was eventually going to make a mistake, which he did to lose the game. And then also you have to make the defense be honest. You had to establish the run. They're missing their best, arguably their best or second best. I understand that the Sewell kid at linebacker is a stud too. They're missing one of their best linebackers. They're missing by far their best defensive lineman, and you couldn't establish the run on Oregon. You had to run the ball more. There's no reason you should have had CJ Stroud throw for 55 times through the air today. And listen, Chris Olave, an absolute problem. 12 catches, 126. He is a problem. Garrett Wilson is a problem. 117, 8 catches and a touchdown. Jackson Smith, 2 touchdowns, 145 and 7 catches. But the problem is, as deep as this wide receiving core is behind them, where is the help? No one else had over 40 yards and no one else had over 3 catches. You're going to have to find a 4th and 5th guy. That way, when you spread the defense out, you've got 5 threats there, and they're too talented in the depth of that wide receiving core to really for that to be a problem. And so for me, I thought the Ohio State team, the offense is going to be fine all year, guys. Ohio State's going to be able to put up yards and points. That's not the problem for them. The problem is that defense can't stop a nosebleed in terms of the run game. But because of that, Oregon was able to live off the RPO game. They were able to live off some screen passes. They were able to get Anthony Brown some high percentage throws and allow him to manage the game perfectly. And he made plays when he had to, and that's the problem with Ohio State. Now, the next topic, are the Ducks a real college football playoff contender? Yes, I picked them for the playoffs last year until everyone opted out in the Pac-12, completely butchered the COVID situation. The Ducks are real. When they get healthy, they are the best team in the Pac-12. And right now, I think they could compete with just about anybody in the country. I think this team is a real contender. Mario Cristobal has done more than enough on the recruiting trail to load that team up with talent and depth. And I was having a conversation during the game with another one of my friends he's not into college football as much as like I am, but he watches his team and some of the top teams. This idea that there's no parity in college football and that Oregon is just this Pac-12 team, and if you don't watch all these games and know all these players, you got to stop saying that. There is so much parity in college football, and Oregon is a legit team. If you don't follow their recruiting, you wouldn't know that. You wouldn't understand that Verone McKinley's legit, that CJ Verdell's legit, that they have one of the best receiving corps in the Pac-12 led by Micah Pittman. They have talent. Just because you don't know the players' names as well, because for some reason, because Oregon's on the West Coast, so you don't stay up late to watch their games sometimes, doesn't mean they're not a legit contender. Oregon is legit. They have just as much depth and just as much talent as the rest of the national contenders. And we have to stop this narrative that the teams on the West Coast can't compete with the teams on the East Coast, because there's a coach over there, Mario Cristobal, who's from the Nick Saban lineage, who has coached in the SEC and proven he can do it. And he's out recruiting a lot of those Southern teams as well. He had the top 6 class this past year, and he also has some dogs coming in this next class. And Michael Wright on that defense, Bennett Williams on that defense, Noah Sewell, all those guys can ball. So put some respect on Oregon's names. For me, they're a real contender. For me, the Pac-12 is going to be a dogfight. UCLA looks legit. USC is a contender. Oregon's the real deal. Colorado's playing right now, has a chance to put the Pac-12 even more on the map with a big win against Texas A&M. For me, if Oregon wins out, which I think they absolutely can, they should be in the college football playoff. And that conversation is going to get real interesting now that Ohio State and Clemson both have 1 losses. And you have the X factor of Notre Dame and Cincinnati also sitting there in the top 10, who could also be factors if they go undefeated. Now, what's next? Oregon, I believe, has I think they have Stony Brook. Yeah, they play Stony Brook next. Should be a game to get healthy. Should be a game they could rest Kayvon Thibodeau and kind of gear up for Pac-12 play. Ohio State, on the other hand, has to find a way to rebound from this loss. They get Tulsa next week. That should be fine. And then they get Akron the next week, I believe. So too easy. Should be easy and solid games for Ohio State to kind of get their feet under them. But, guys, I just want to say I was wrong, and I should have stuck with my preseason gut, because I've been preaching about how Oregon could pull this off. I didn't believe in Anthony Brown, and I apologize on that one because that kid balled out. But Oregon's legit. Ohio State's offense will be fine, but until they can stop the run, that is a huge, huge issue. They have a long stretch before they get some real competition when they run into Penn State in late October. Oregon is still the favorite for the Pac-12 for me. This was an amazing game, guys, from 2 great teams. So listen, if you're new, hit that subscribe button, like the video, man. We got the best college football content on YouTube, man. Approaching 1,000 subscribers. So I love y'all, man. Thank y'all for the support. We'll have an instant reaction show tonight at 10 p.m. Central Time, dropping right here on our YouTube channel. So turn on your post notifications, hit that subscribe bell, man. But for myself and the Blue Bloods, I am out.